Something I wanted to ask you about as well before time gets too far ahead of us is, as two men who love rugby and have played rugby and the game of rugby has been very good to. The last couple of months, I've seen, you've seen the generation of Steve Thompson come out with horrible stories. And so the physical toll that the sport takes at the top level is being laid bare. Now, as you said on air earlier, Matt, the protocol are so much better now. So you have to hope that we won't be talking about future generations in the same way. That notwithstanding, just for a moment, the toll that it takes, for the second half there, the medics were putting in more kilometres than some of the players. You had James Ryan's HIA, like the Johnny Sexton, the Sexton head to the knee. You had Henshaw hitting his head off the ground. Obviously, look, the O'Mahony one we've discussed, and that was avoidable. But the really difficult question for rugby, there's no easy answer, is what can you do to avoid the Sexton knock to the head or the Henshaw bang on the ground? I don't think rugby has an easy answer to that. I don't know anyone who has an answer to that. The physicality these days, it's a brutal sport. It's making big asks of its players.
I think, I agree. It's very difficult to answer.
Yeah.
But I think what Matt said during the game, and what I've even seen from when I played, which wasn't that long ago, to what you see now, it's so much safer, genuinely. And I'm not trying to protect rugby here or anything like that. You see, incidents happen. Incidents happen in basketball. Incidents happen in GAA, where
nothing like in rugby.
No, listen, but it's a different game. My point being is, a fella can get a knee in a GAA game, just like he got there to Johnny Sexton.
Yeah.
We can't change rugby. Rugby is a physical game. It's always going to be physical, and we can make it safer. And I think what you're seeing with the protocols, with the HIAs, but it's also the mentality of the individual. They're not there anymore going, I'm grand, will you leave me alone? They understand that if there's a head knock, you go through a process and a protocol, which is the right way to do. Then they're evaluated, and if it's medically safe to play, then well and good. The one thing really encouraging about, and it's a horrible story what you brought up about Thompson and that generation, or these stories you hear, I'm not belittling it, but that's one person. The really positive things from a Players Association, there's actually a webinar this week with the RPA and other Rugby Players Association to educate the former rugby players on, jeepers, I see Thompson and the horrible situation he's in. Should I be looking at my watch here because I know it's coming down the track? Or no, there's medical professions there to explain symptoms, to explain to the onset of dementia in terms of what they know about it. So it's trying to educate the former players, the coaches, the medics on how this evolvement has happened. There's no getting away from rugby as a physical, confrontational game. And that's, to be fair, that's why I like it. And that's why I think we all enjoy it. Yes, of course, we can be safer. And unfortunately, from Peter's point of view today, the spotlight's on him. But the spotlight's on him for the improvement of the game and to make it safer. So if we can take away those knocks, and you're talking about Willie Duggan and these guys, they would have bet you up and down the park. So it's so much safer from when it was then. And then the freaking incidences, unfortunately, they do happen. But there's safety protocols to obviously manage them, I would have thought a bit better.
I've had this discussion with some old blokes, and every one of us says the game is much safer now than it was.
100%.
Because one, you've got all these cameras, you've got touch judges that are now assistant referees, you've got hundreds of eyes on you. Mate, in the old days you had a referee. The referee would watch the ball, and then you got punched, you got hit late, you got kicked. And I'm not saying that with any pride or weren't we tough. What was happening past it was horrific.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want my kids to go through it. But you especially watch junior rugby, there's just none of that anymore. It just doesn't happen. And it's much, much safer.